Howdy, welcome to Dangerous Ideas, and I am your host, James Victore. I wanted to talk to you about a situation I was in just recently that I found very interesting. I was a juror on a design show. I won't say which one. And after the show, there was a panel presentation. Not discussion, but a presentation where the judges got up and they showed their work. During the talk, I was getting thoroughly depressed and anxious and excited and overwhelmed because they were spreading their pain. They didn't mean to be. They were just doing it because that's what they do. That's what designers do. You know, you give a microphone and an audience, and they're like, oh my God, no one ever listens to me. This is my opportunity to talk, to share. And they weren't venting. It wasn't like that. They weren't like peeing in the pool. No, they were exactly peeing in the pool. They were peeing in the pool, but they weren't venting. They didn't know it. They were sharing their story of how they design and their relationship with their clients or their boss or whatever. And it was sad. And about halfway through it, I just wanted to stand up and say, stop! And say to the audience, don't listen to these people. They're crazy. Don't follow their example. It's poison. Soylent Green is people. It was dreadful. And it was funny because they were just talking about their work and just talking about their practices. And their practices are horrendous. And their practices are the cliche of how we work. Not how we work. Not how you should work. Certainly not how I work. But the cliche of how everybody works. And it is maddening and sad and depressing to hear. So, for example, first designer gets up and she's showing her work and she's talking about these and showing, first of all, way too much work. Like, here's the rule. When you get up to speak and show your work, or get up to speak anywhere, it's called the rule of vaudeville, right? You know what vaudeville is? If you don't know what vaudeville is, look it up. The rule of vaudeville: get in, get out, and always leave them wanting more. Don't try to say everything. Don't try to cover everything. These people were like cutting into everybody else's time. Everybody was taking up too much time. They were just talking too much and showing too much. And this one gal gets up and she's showing not only the work, but the iterations, the way she got there. And there were like 50 or 100. She's like, oh, it was a hand-lettered title, for example, some hand lettering on a piece. And she's showing, like, she said, oh, there was probably 100. 100? Are you fucking kidding me? When people come to work with me, we don't let them work on the computer, so everything has to come from your hands. You just have to make or paint or collage or just get it done. And when I see someone and they want to add a word or a phrase, that they want to put their aphorism in and they want to do it by hand, they start drawing, and they'll start drawing, and I come by and I'm like, oh my God, no, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm trying to make the title. Okay, which one did you do first? This one. Okay, that's the one we're going to use. Just take the first one. Yes, draw it a bunch of times, but take the first one. Because that's the one's the most sincere. That's the one where you're not thinking about it. All the other ones, you're thinking about it, and you're searching for this level of perfection that doesn't exist. So just take the first one. Don't make 100 iterations. It's not going to change. It's not going to matter to anybody. Crazy. Don't teach that to people. Don't teach 100. You're not in goddamn art school anymore. You know, 100 iterations. I remember when I first worked as a book jacket designer, I worked in this tiny little studio, and there was a designer there, and she made, like, she had comp after comp after comp after comp after comp after comp, and there were tiny little changes and change the typeface and change this and change this and change this. And I'm like, oh my God, what's the budget on this job? And she'd say, oh, we're, $3,000. And I'm like, and how much time have you spent on this? Because you've blown the budget. You're not getting paid anymore. You're just jacking off to make yourself happy. Crazy. Think of that. Think of that when you're doing comp after comp after comp after comp. The other side of it is when a client asks you for comp after comp after. You have to work with people who know how to make a goddamn decision. Make a decision. I do not work like that. I say, I will give you one thing, and you will love it. And if you don't love it, then we can talk. But I need intelligent reasons. I need intelligent direction. One idea, goodbye. Make a decision. Somebody needs to make a decision. Somebody needs to be in charge. Might as well be you. I just mentioned the use of typefaces. That was another thing that came up from another designer. This idea of like searching for the right font to say this thing. Do not do that. Do not be so lazy as to look for the right font for your voice. Your voice should say, you should make your type say something. You know, I learned a bunch of years ago, it was actually Milton Glaser who said, learn 5. Learn how to use 5 typefaces, maybe 5, and learn how to use them well. Don't choose that lazy route of, I'm looking for that perfect typeface that says World War II, or I'm looking for that perfect typeface that says romance. Fuck off. There is no perfect typeface, and if there is, it's a lazy way to do it because that's what everybody else has used that font for. Pick a few, learn how to use them. I've got like my go-to, my boring, what do I use for text is like either Caslon or Garamond. Display is either Cooper Black that I love, and I love it. You know why I love it? Because you hate it. That's why I fucking love it. Helvetica and my handwriting. Do not rely on what the typeface brings to the job. It's a lazy way to do it. You should be in charge. It should be your voice, your feelings. It's another designer who came up and she had made book jackets, and that was her forte. Unfortunately, what she did is she made book jackets look like book jackets. She made the obvious look more obviouser. You know? How not interesting. How not interesting to make book jackets look like book jackets. It's just an idea. It's just a thought. You may be saying, well, James, there's a reason that we make book jackets look like book jackets. It's so we get the, make the client happy, and so we, so we get paid, because it's a job. Okay, and I will say there are monkeys in the zoo who are sitting around, and one of them is saying, there's a reason that we're in the zoo. It's in order to show human beings what we can do. It's in order to, you know what? Fuck off. It's a fucking Stockholm syndrome. When are you going to do work for you? When are you going to have the career that you wanted to be, that you wanted to have? The career that you came to your job for. The career that you went to art school and got a freaking degree, or design school. You got a degree. And now you're like a monkey in the zoo, hemmed in by what everybody else expects from you or expects from the work that you're doing. Another idea just as similar to this that wasn't spoken about, but I talked to my mentees and my proteges about. This is another dangerous idea. There are so many of us, of you, who do work to get paid. And hear me out. I do work to get paid. I do work for 2 reasons. I do work for creativity, and I do work to get paid. But there are so many of you who are doing all the work you're doing you hate or don't care for, but you're doing it to get paid. And your reason you're doing that is because of your fear of poverty. You're working out of your poverty. The problem is that those jobs might be bringing in money to take care of, to feed your poverty problem, but it's not feeding you. It's not creative work. It's not happy work. It's not joyful work. And it's not work that you can even fucking show anybody, because you know what you're going to get? More of that goddamn work. Ah, booyah. That's what happens. That's what happens. And someday you're going to wake up 5, 10 years from now and you're still going to be doing that same crappy work. Completely dissatisfied. Your fear of poverty. It's keeping you down. So another designer gets up. She is a former architect and now she's doing book interiors. She was putting out this love of perfection, this ideal. Like, look how things are lined. Look how I've lined everything up. Look how I've done this and this. And it was this idea of perfection. So she showed way too much, again, vaudeville, way too much work. Way too much work. But it was interesting because she showed that much of her body of work to prove that her ideal of perfection is fucking bland. It's like, as a chef, you learned to saute mushrooms in a certain way, and your family goes, "Oh, these are awesome. This is great." And then you basically do that every fucking night for the rest of your life. And your family eventually is like, "Oh my God, again, 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 again." She was showing this work, and it was just like, gray page, gray page, gray page, gray page. Look at the grid. Look at the grid. Look at my grid. Kill me. Her love of perfection produced sameness. That's what it did. It produced a level of gray. After a while, it was just a level of sadness. I can't imagine doing that for a living. Personally. For you, if you love that, go for it. Perfection's not interesting. Especially the aspiring to perfection, because it's an ideal, it's a picture perfect. It doesn't exist. You will never get there. The point of all this is what these designers were presenting as their daily process were basically the cliches that we grow up with. The bad practices of graphic design that we take on. And we assume this is the way to go because everybody else is doing it. But it's a bad practice. If all of your other friends are functioning alcoholics, I guess I should do that too, right? It's not good. It's not cool. They're the cliches. And what happens when you take cliche as your modus operandi, it becomes a habit. And your habit is going to spill over into your life. Watch your practices. Watch the cliches that you follow or you don't follow, okay? Be conscious, be wise, be in charge of your career. That's the point. That's the point. And that's when it becomes interesting, and that's when it becomes fun, and that's when you get paid to be you. You get paid to be Amanda Garcia. You get paid to be Emma Holmes. You get paid to be Brian Gay. You get paid to be Jason Bacher. I want to get paid to be James Victore. You guys are awesome. I love you. Yes, in that way, of course. This is Dangerous Ideas, and I will talk at you next week. Bye-bye.